Hello everybody and welcome to the next video. Okay, so in this video we're going to go through sections. So you may remember that we started to think about them on the how to plan your website video. So we're just going to head into the website now. And the first thing that we're going to do, and I did mention this in the previous video, is we're actually going to create an experiment page. And this is just so that we can actually have a play around. Don't worry about it affecting the navigation, because we will be deleting it. But it's just so that we can actually have a play around, and it's not then going to affect the other pages that you've just created. Okay, so I'm just now going into the experiment page that I've just created. Give it a minute to load. Okay, right, so here we are. So this is the experiment page. It's a brand new page that we've just created. As you can see, it's already bringing over those styles that we created again in the previous video on creating your style in MailChimp. So what are we going to go through today? Well, first things first, we're going to go through sections. Okay, so as you can see, when you go into a page, you have blocks and then you have sections. Okay, so we're going to actually now take a more in-depth look at what these actually are and how then you're going to be able to use the sections and then the blocks in another video to then start making your actual pages. All right, so navigation. Obviously, this is basically your actual navigation. So as we can see here, it's got links. It allows us to choose which of the pages we want that particular link to go to. Obviously, we can edit it. As I said in other videos, it doesn't have to actually go to a page within here. It can go to external links, and that's going to be helpful in some cases because obviously MailChimp, this is the beta and it doesn't have all the functionality we need yet. So the link one may come in handy for you as well. Okay. This is also where we can choose the fonts. All right, so we can have a play around with the actual fonts that are going on in our navigation right now. We can have a play around with the actual color. So don't actually have the colors over here from here. So if I just go back to my brand style guide, so if I wanted to go for more one of these kind of colors from the color scheme that I already created, then I can just pop over there. Whoops, and then paste it if it will let me. Here we go. It just doesn't want to. That's it. There we go. Right. Okay. So now I've changed it to one of the colors from my brand. Okay. I can actually also change the height. Now, unfortunately, because of my cut screen from the video, you can't actually see down here. But basically, I'm now selecting double space. It's at the bottom of this bar. And then you can also increase or decrease the space of the pixels in between. So obviously by me doing some of these changes, it's gone down. So if I just make the size of my font a little bit smaller, there we go. Okay. And then the mobile menu icon color is actually on mobile. Then you would actually, instead of seeing this navigation, you'd actually see a hamburger little three lines instead of that. So obviously then it means that your website can be used from mobiles as well and is responsive in that sense. That's really, really good as well. Okay, so I'm just going to hit save on that. Okay, so I think that kind of covers all of the navigation things that you can have a play around with on there. Right, the next one is page level styles. Okay, so this is where, and what I've noticed is only some of the changes you make are universal, and a lot of the changes you make are actually just to that page specifically. So in this one, we've at the moment got our page container for the experiment page set to 1224. But I can actually set it bigger. I can actually set it smaller, or I can set it to 100%. But the weird thing is if I publish that and then look at that publish thing, it's only when I then go onto the experiment page, and it doesn't help that you can't see that I've done that there, but basically it doesn't affect the other pages. So you could actually have smaller pages. So if I'd have put an image there so you could actually see it, that kind of would have helped. So let's do that. So we're going to use that image in the background. Okay, so hit publish. See whether then it will make any difference. Right, okay, so I'm on my experiment page. And obviously, because I'm recording this live, it's like, no, I don't want to show that off. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm on my experiment page and page levels. Oh, that's why, because it didn't save it for some reason. So 100%. Okay, and now I'm going to hit save. So let me just double check that it's done that. It has. Okay, so now publish. And then refresh. Go back to the experiment. And now, there we go. So as you can see, my experiment page, my container, so that's the overall page for the experiment page, has actually gone to 100% width. Okay. But if I go back to my home page, that isn't on that. That was on like the 1224 pixels. So that could be really handy, because did you notice how also you didn't have to display a page on the navigation? So this could be really, really handy for you to just create some landing pages within your site as well, so that they have different container width, different page styles and things like that, and they're not actually added to your navigation. So yeah, so it's definitely worthwhile playing around with that aspect of it, where you can actually set different pages to different container widths. Okay, so I'm hoping that that kind of made sense. I'm sorry it took ages for it to show you what I was on about, but yeah, so basically that's what that does. Okay, so I'm just going to set that back to the 1224 for this. Obviously as well, padding. So padding is on the right and on the left, so again you can play around with that. Okay, now the other things that we've got is we've got our headers. So we've got header fonts. So header 1 is our most prioritized header, and obviously Google and everybody understands that. You can play around with the styles. Header 2, obviously use that for then any subheadings that you've got on the page. Heading 3 and heading 4, so on and so on. So what it's actually doing naturally, because we already set up that style guide the other day, is it's using the same colour. You don't have to, you can change those colours. And then naturally what it's doing is it's just making each one slightly smaller. So the heading 1 is starting off at 40 px, the heading 2 at 34, the heading 3 at 22, and then the heading 4 at 20. Okay, and then the heading 4 is made italic, which is quite a common way to make them stand out and differentiate. You can also, like I said, change the colours as well. So you would just do the whole copying your colours over from here and then adding it back into here. Okay, so that's your page level styles. So like I said, that only seems to affect that particular page. Okay, all right, next one is the header. Okay, so basically, again, this is quite an interesting one. So if you really wanted to, you can change the colour of the header. Obviously, that's not a very great one, but I'm basically doing this just to show you what I mean. Okay, so that is literally just changing the header container style. Okay, it hasn't changed these because these are classed as something else. They're not actually classed as the header container style. Okay, and you can also, again, add an image in there as well. Okay, I'm just showing you this as an example. Yeah, there you go. So you can even add an image. Or what you could even do in Canva is, again, make a new customized graphic, making it the width of your site. So again, I'd say do it the same as your header. So the 2400 pixels by maybe, I think that's going to be possibly 75, 100 maximum kind of thing, or you can have it obviously a little bit bigger if you want to, and do some sort of gradient or, you know, colour that you've done some sort of slight effect on, so obviously it doesn't get in the way of your navigation and your logo being seen. So you can get really creative and play around with that. Okay, so I'm just going to remove that one. And I'm also going to put that back to white. Okay, just so you can then see. Now, header interior. So let's click on that. There you go. Okay, so can you see how we've now got access to a different box? So header interior is what's actually containing our logo and then our navigation. Okay, so again, you can actually add an image there apparently. So again, you can customize that. You can add borders the same as the other one. You can increase the padding as well if you want to make it bigger. So I know some people like really big headers. So there you go. You can make the whole thing bigger that way. I'm going to again remove the color just because then I want to show you the next one. Okay, so then we've got, yes, we've got the container, we've got interior, and then we've got the header text. Okay, so at the moment I've got that set to Open Sans, but I'm going to go to that. We don't actually have any text in our header on here, so that's actually not going to show you any changes. And then header link is obviously, these are actual links, so you can see that it's changing basically. There we go. Okay, so that's your header. Now featured is actually this section here. Okay, so as you can see, we've already got that background image set there at the moment. Like I said in the previous video, you can change that to anything that you want. You can change it to color. You can change how it's filled and all that kind of stuff. This is where you can then change how that image is being used. So you can contain, you can do auto, you can do cover. You can tell it where the position of the image is. That mainly gets affected when you're using kind of tiles and things like that, which I don't really recommend to use these days. We do also have fallback color, so you could kind of pick a color that still works really well with your text colors and your buttons, so that if for some reason the image is unable to load, then at least then your website still looks really nice. You can actually add an overlay, which for some images it can help your text be a bit more readable. Okay, and then that's how you'd play around with the transparency on that. Obviously you can change that color, so I could change that to more of a white. And can you see how now that's adding a bit of white over that image? When that is actually helping the text obviously be seen a little bit better. So again, that's another thing to play around with. This is also where you can change your padding. So at the moment we've got it on 108, so let's change that to 200 just so you can see the huge difference. So this is where on my home page, because I want to have a really, really nice big image on my home page to make it differentiate, then that's also where I can change the padding. Okay. Right, featured interior style. So I'm going to hit that and there you go. Okay, so that's actually that text box. So if we really wanted, we could do the whole adding a background color to that, so that if we've gone with one of those images where you just don't see the space, then obviously this helps us put a fill in there, so that then obviously you can see your text over there. Okay, again, you can play around with your padding in there. It's like, so let's go for 50 just so you get an idea of what that does. And like I said, this is your experiment page, guys. So this is where I just want you to really go to town and really have a good play at what all of these things are doing. Okay, because it's not going to hurt. We're going to delete this page, so don't worry. But this is where you can do all your tests. Okay. And then obviously the link colors we tend to keep the same, but you can change the text if you wanted. So maybe in your featured, you'd prefer a different font, and that's changing that font there. Okay, so that's the featured one. All right, so the next one about, it's exactly the same. So it's a case of, you choose whether you want to have a background color or you don't want any color at all. And then if you choose not to have a color at all, it will actually go off your overall kind of base background color that you may have set somewhere else, okay, which is what it's actually done in this case with me. Or I can turn it back to white, but I'm going to go with a no color because that's quite nice. There we go. So yeah, and again, it's just a case of them playing around if I want to increase or decrease the padding. The interior again is, so let me just do it that color so you can see what I mean. So again, the interior is where you've got your text and your image in there. Or again, you can leave it at no color, or you could turn that to white now that we've got a slight color on there. So it really is just a case of having to play around with this and what your overall design is that you've decided to go for based on your header images and the sketches that you did the other day. Okay. The other thing I do quite like as well is built in to the interior ones, you can actually add shadows, which are actually really nice. So you can make actually make your box area kind of have a shadow effect. I tend to go for bottom right or bottom left, but just always then, if you're going to go with shadows, then use the same, in effect, light source. So obviously by doing bottom right, then I'm pretending that my light source is up here. So imagine the sun and it's shining down in diagonal, and then that's where the shadow is. But if you use that effect, then you have to use it and the same one wherever you've decided to use your shadows. Okay, so there you go. And again, you can then just hit save on that. And it's just the same on all of these guys now. So it's basically a case of just going through each of those sections and then changing it to how you want. So obviously on the contact one, you could have a nice image. So again, go over to Canva, create your nice image, and then bring it on over here. And then if you've gone for an image, then in the interior, we could then change that to white so that that's then still can be viewed, and everything else. We can make it stand out by adding the box shadow. Like, there's just so much that you can mess around with in here, guys. So I really, really hope that you go to town and have some fun. Again, I think I'd quite like the padding on the on both of these things a little bit bigger. So I'm going to change that to 100. And I'm going to change that one to 20. Just give myself a little bit more space in there. So if you can see, that's all just gone slightly bigger. Okay. You can mess around with how much the blur is. Can you see that? So by moving the slider up and down, I can either really intensify it so I can make a very crisp, sharp shadow. And if it doesn't even necessarily need to be a shadow. It could just be that that's some sort of colour effect that you've got going on instead. Because you've done it really sharp, it just looks like you've got like an overlapping box, which can be quite a nice effect. Okay, and then as you can see, when we blur it more, then obviously, and then it can go all the way out. So again, just have a play, guys. It really doesn't hurt, I promise. Okay, offset is how big it goes. Okay, so as you can see, you can get that spread quite far out, and then again you've got your fonts that you can play around with and everything else as well. Okay, so that's then the contact one. Product one, we're actually going to today be ignoring the products, basically because we're going to be covering all of that in module 5. So yeah, so we're just going to kind of ignore that section right now. But again, styling, it's going to be the same. Testimonials is exactly the same as well, so we can choose whether, again, we want any sort of background image or anything else going over that. The same for the subscribe, and again, we're just going to cover the subscribe bit in module 4's lessons, so that's okay. And then the footer, again, we're going to go through later on in module, I think 5 or 6, we cover the footer as well. Okay, so yeah, so there you go. So the majority of those you can have a play around with today. Okay, and you'll start building things up, having a play in here first on your experiment page. And then once you've actually figured out, okay, maybe you go with, I want an image on the, I want a plain navigation area, which let's face it, usually makes a bit more sense, but obviously it can still be a colour. Okay, it doesn't have to be white. And then you may want to go for a really nice big image at the top of the page. And then the next one down, you may want that to, again, just be plain, either white or a colour that goes with your scheme. Then the next one down, that might look then good with having a image behind it. Then the next one down, again, could just be a colour. The next one down, an image, and so on and so on. And then the footer we're going to, like I said, cover in some later sessions. Okay. So there you go. So that's it, guys. And if I publish all of that, as I said, most of that doesn't then go over to, so like I said, the header bit does. That kind of seems to be uniform. So any changes you make to your header on one page is made to all of them. But the rest of the changes that we made that were each of these sections, it's just to that single page. So you can get very, very creative. See, none of the rest of them have got that going on, and I've not created those pages yet. No, there we go. But none of those other pages that are still there have got that styling happening. So it's literally just only the header bit that's copied over and is universal, and then everything else is just very page specific. Okay, so that's it. So there you go, guys. So that is your sections. And like I said, every page has all of those sections. So, and obviously you don't have to, we're going into the separate page trainings later on in this module. And all you'll need to do is just watch the ones for the pages that you want to create. So we'll be going into the things that you might want to make sure that you're including on those pages. But today is just all about actually kind of having an experiment, making your experiment page, having a really good play around with those sections. In the next video, we're going to go through having to play around with the blocks on your experiment page. And then from there, then we're going to start making your actual pages. I know, it's so exciting, all right? Okay, so have fun. Again, share what you're doing over in the Facebook group, because I'd really like to see what you're up to. And yeah, and I'll see you in the next video when we cover when we cover the blocks, because we've just done sections. Okay, no worries. Take care. Bye.